wanted to talk about is what to look for when buying one of these. Toyota Supra. So I'm going to go over what the cost and what to look for when buying a Supra. So I kind of did what the breakdown was in a couple other videos. Cost of ownership, cost to build one. I kind of want to give a breakdown on the cost of going out and looking for one. These cars are getting old now. You can't just go out and go, oh, okay, it's going to have a few issues. I mean, these cars are getting 25, 26 years old now, and they're going to have some rust. They're going to be missing parts. The next issue is Toyota has decided to discontinue a lot of those parts. So you could go out and look at a car and go, oh, this is great, it's only missing this, this, and this. Well, those few parts that you happen to be missing all of a sudden cost you $10,000, and I'm not exaggerating. So I want to go over today some of the things to really look for when buying one of these cars and what you need to, as a buyer, to have in your arsenal so the guy can't try to, and lack of better words, fuck you over. I don't want to see anyone out there get screwed over when trying to buy one of these. I was pretty fortunate when I got mine, but I'd like to give as much knowledge as I know at this time and give it to you, the viewer. So let's start off here. Number one, the first thing I usually look for is original paint, or if it's been repainted, if there's been any body damage. Now, you can check a Carfax, but there's ways of always getting around that if you need to go through insurance, etc., etc. First thing I always check for is the VIN tags on the body itself. That's something you always want to go through. You try not to buy one that's been wrecked, and you want to make sure all the body panels are there. A lot of the stuff's starting to be discontinued now. The rear and front bumpers, I think, are next up on the list to be discontinued. These headlights right here are going to be discontinued shortly. They already started discontinuing the tail lights. So that's something you guys really need to take into effect here, that this stuff is going to no longer exist, and it's going to be very hard to get. And if you can get it, it's going to be a lot of money. I don't think anyone wants to be forking out $30,000, well, I should say $30,000, $3,000 for headlights. They're already $1,000 now, and they're going to pay triple the price because the car, you can no longer get them for it. So that's something I always tell everyone to look for, is definitely look for VIN tags on the body itself. It's a good indication if it's been wrecked. Always look at the paint itself. You can usually tell if it's been wrecked. This car has been wrecked. My personal Supra here, I got rear-ended in this personal car back in 2013, and then it looks like down the one side it had been repainted, and you really wouldn't paint just one side for no reason, so most likely there's an accident on the passenger side of this vehicle at one time. So that's something I tell you guys right away. Always look for that first, any type of body damage or anything that's missing from the car exterior-wise. Next up, guys, when looking at the engine here in itself, look for one that has not been modified. And I know the first thing everyone's going to say is, Ryan, that is damn near impossible anymore, which it really is getting very hard to find one that has not been modified in any shape, way, or form. This one I bought, it was 100% bone stock. But the next thing you can do is look for good, tasteful mods. Look for good, tasteful products. Look for someone that's honest, shows any type of defects or any issues the car may have. Wiring is a big thing. Check under the kick panel that is inside the car. Underneath the passenger side kick panel is where the ECU is stored. Look to see if it has an aftermarket ECU. Make sure the car has a good cold start. Make sure the car runs well. Make sure he lets you take it for a drive. These are all things that rarely look for when dealing with the engine and drivetrain wise. Make sure it has a proper transmission in it. Make sure the clutch is good. There's so many things you need to look for here, but first, just to make sure, we'll start off with this. Make sure, if you can, if possible, buy one as close to stock as possible, something that's been modified as little as possible. And if it has been heavily modified, make sure it's done with quality parts by a quality shopper, someone that you personally trust. You don't want to be buying a shitbox car you just spent $50,000 on, because these things aren't exactly cheap anymore. And that's something I always tell everyone to look for, is these certain parts are something you know has been quality. Go over any electrical, have him remove the spark plug cover, check all the clips, check as much as you can, ask as many questions as you can when it comes to the motor. If he is a quality seller, 9 times out of 10, they'll have a long list of everything that's been done in the car. They'll have receipts. Anything that's been done in the car, they'll 9 times out of 10 have it. If they're a true quality seller, I myself have everything still. Every Supra owner I know, for the most part, keeps running tabs on everything they've done to their car. It can either rattle it off the top of their head, or they have a running list of everything. These are the kind of things you need to absolutely ask for, and that obviously probably doesn't even apply to the Supra itself. It applies to any car, but I'm just trying to tell you what I look for when buying one of these, or when I went out to look for one. Make sure there's no brake leaks. Make sure, when I said about the drivetrain stuff, make sure it has a proper transit. So make sure it has either a V160, R154, CD009, W58. Ask them which transit it has in it, because you're talking a big difference in price. It has a W58 in it. You can buy one of those all day for $500. If it has a V160 in it, you're looking at $6 or $7 grand for a transmission alone. Then you have a 3.13 diff, you're looking at another $3,000 to $3,500. So if it has these items, they bring up the price quite substantially. I mean, you're looking at $10,000 more just for the drivetrain itself, not counting everything else. So it can make a major difference in what you're going to pay for this vehicle. So please look for these kind of things when you're going to buy something like this. Next thing you guys want to look for, this is also coming with the body again, is if the car is a target top or if it is a hard top. And hard top in the US of A is actually worth a good bit more money than what a target top is. They're rare, the body's a little bit more rigid, and they also weigh less, which is always a big plus, especially with this car, which they considered heavy for its time period. Now, I wouldn't call it heavy anymore, but for that time period, it was definitely a fat cat, as you would call it. It'd be the Hellcat at the time. It weighed 3,400 pounds, and I think the hard tops weighed like 3,250 or 3,300. So you shaved off 100 pounds or 150 pounds just by doing that. The next thing I would also look for is trim. So make sure all the trim's there, like I was saying with the body before. Make sure everything's there. Make sure if it's been shaved anywhere. Like I shaved my rear windshield wiper off, all that good stuff. For me, I like that kind of thing, but the next buyer might hate it or they want to see all original paint again. So that's stuff you got to look for. Next part I'm going to move on to for you here, guys, is the interior, and this is a big one, so I hope you guys are paying attention because this is where it can get real pricey, real fast, and you'll never know it. You guys can hear me crystal clear right now. I'm standing back behind the camera, but I'm going to go over the interior of the car here as fast as I can and kind of give a quick rundown. So first off, we have the door panels here. These door panels are no longer available. You cannot buy these anymore. Everything you see here is no longer available. These alone now, they retail between, well, I should say on our Supra black market, these are between $1,500 a pair. They can get a little outrageous for nice ones. Anything with damage like mine have, they can go for around $750 or so, but they still go for a lot. You can have them rewrapped and they'll be fine, but they're just very hard to get a hold of and very hard to get. Let's move on to the rest of the interior here, the seats. So the black plastic trim here, if you can see. You can see here the black plastic trim, that in itself right there, you're looking at, I don't know, sometimes $500 just for black plastic trim. No longer can get any of that. It can get quite pricey. Obviously, you can get aftermarket people or aftermarket companies to wrap the seats. That's not a big deal, but the plastics itself you can no longer buy. Just like these panels here, you can no longer buy them, and the seal here is no longer available. As you can see, mine's starting to fall apart, needs to be replaced, and kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because there's no way for me to really get rid of it as of right now. All right, guys, so next up here is more of the interior. I got my light here to try and hopefully light this up a little bit better as best I can at least. The carpet, which you can see here, and the floor mats. Floor mats itself, they're going for around $500 to $600 new. Used, they're going for around $300. That's right, floor mats are discontinued and they go for those outrageous prices. Carpet, if it is new, I'm seeing it go for around $1,500 to $2,000 right now. If it is used, it all depends. They can get pretty raggedy, but since people don't care about it as much, I can see those going pretty cheap for $200 or $300, which I guess that's still not cheap. But in the Supra world, that is considered cheap. The steering wheel, this is actually from a JDM car. That is not from an American car, even though it looks like a 97, 98 steering wheel. It does not have the cruise control stock on it. If you can find a 97, 98, they go for a good bit of money also. So be careful when looking for that stuff, guys. You want to make sure it has these things or has the stuff in good condition, because if not, you are pretty much up shit creek without a paddle. Now when it comes to dash panels, this is where it gets real expensive. That 6-speed panel here, which I'll show, let me get a little bit closer for you. 6-speed panel in itself right here, it still sells for new for around $150. This panel here, I believe this sells for around, I want to say $175. Now the rest of the plastic you guys can all see here, this is all discontinued and it sells for a boatload of money. When I mean a boatload, I'm talking thousands of dollars. It's getting out of hand. I think someone just had a whole set of this for sale. I think it was $1,500 or $2,500. Yeah, the dash itself now discontinued, and even when it was new, it was $1,500, or not $1,500, I'm sorry, $900. I'm not sure what a new dash would even cost now if someone still has one in the box. I imagine it'd be pretty pricey in itself, and no one's probably going to want to pay for it, to be honest, unless you got the extra cash to just throw around in that sake of just, well, pissing money away, to be honest. I wanted to come back to the back of the car here again real quick. These are the taillights I was talking about. These are the 97, 98 taillights. Toyota is no longer standing behind them, and they're going to be discontinued. Now, right now they will still sell you the lens kit, which is the actual lens there itself, but you can no longer buy
the adapter, I guess, kit that goes with it for the bulbs and everything to work. And the 97 and 98 taillights are technically different from the 93.5 to 96. So that's something you need to look for. If it has these taillights, it's definitely worth the extra bit of money. So that's something you guys need to look for when buying one of these. Another thing is the wing itself. These are getting harder and harder to find too. This is an original OEM wing. They do have aftermarket wings that are stock looking, but they don't fit nearly as well. I've never seen one that has fit well yet, so I tend to stay away from those. You'll be able to definitely tell if it's an aftermarket wing. Make sure it has all the stock corner lights in front and rear corner lights, I should say. When it comes for brakes, that's another thing too I gotta show you here in a minute. So for the brakes here, guys, these are what we call non-turbo brakes that are in my car. They are just not worth nearly as much. They're worth maybe a tenth of what TT brakes are. They're just pretty much giant paperweights. So when I take them off, I'll pretty much maybe just keep them in the basement or scrap them, not worth anything. Now, if it has twin turbo brakes or Brembo brakes on it, that'll definitely increase the value, and it's something to definitely look for. Also look for if it has all its fender plastics inside the fenders here. Mine still does, and they do still sell it from Toyota, but that's something you definitely need to look for when buying it. Make sure it has all the fender plastic still. Make sure it has the cowl plastic up here. That's something you want to make sure you have on the car. Yeah, check all that stuff, guys. Please be as thorough as you can. There's no such thing as a dumb question when going to buy one of these car, guys. They are very old, and if the buyer thinks you're annoying them, well then he's usually trying to hide something, because these cars are old. This is like buying an antique now, in my opinion. Not an antique, but a classic car. I mean, it's an old car. If you're not going to ask questions, all you're asking for.
All right, guys, I think that's going to be it to wrap it up for the most part. The only other thing I'm going to say here is to check electrical again. You can have some wiring gremlins, and they can really make your life a living nightmare. Last thing you want to do is be starting the car you just bought home, or even once you get it home and find out this has been replaced or this is missing, you got burnt wires. I recommend bringing as many tools as you can with you. I recommend bringing multiple lights. If you have a mechanical friend or a mechanic in itself that you can bring with you, I highly suggest that also. Anything you can do to protect yourself. Now, this all might seem like overkill. This might all seem like this is unnecessary, but it's one of those things. This is your money at the end of the day. You guys can do whatever you want with it. I mean, it's not the skin off my back, but I'm just trying to help you to try and save you from pissing money away that you don't have to throw away. Hopefully you guys can get a good deal, talk with the buyer, or talk with the seller, work out a good deal, or vice versa here, and hopefully you guys can come to a happy medium. These cars are definitely worth the money in my eyes. I enjoy every minute of working on it. I don't ever get tired of working on the car. It's my definite passion, and I do see why there's a cult following around it. I see people that say, like, I don't get what the big deal is about them. I don't understand why people follow them so much. And 9 times out of 10, that person is most likely a non-Supra owner, has never had one. There is issues with the cars. They're not perfect, but it's a vehicle, and no vehicle is perfect, just like humans. So thank you, guys. So yeah, definitely I would tell anyone to buy one of these if they can afford it. It is just a fun car to work on. It's an easy car to work on. Having an inline 6 and Toyota made this car super easy to work on, besides removing the stock twin turbos. Everything else about this car is very easy to work on and very user friendly. All right, guys, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope you enjoyed this video with this car and telling you guys and showing you guys what you need to look for when buying a Toyota Supra. If there's any other content you guys would like to see, anything else you'd like to see about my Supra, please let me know. As usual, follow me on Facebook at Pure Function Engineering, or on Instagram at purefunction_underbar. You can always shoot me a message on Facebook or shoot me a direct message on Instagram. Thank you very much, guys, and have a great day. Peace.